Most people's experience with the ocean ends at the shoreline. These stories start where the light stops. Tonight we're diving into 13 sea creature encounter stories from Reddit. These aren't polished legends about kraken and mermaids. These are posts from people on fishing boats, cargo ships, oil rigs, submarines, and midnight beaches, who saw something in the water they cannot explain. You'll hear about shapes that surface without sound, eyes reflecting light where no animal should be, silhouettes bigger than the boat, and things swimming just under the surface that don't match any chart. Some of it could be misidentified whales, giant squid, or tricks of the moonlight. Some of it feels bigger than that. So turn the lights down, imagine nothing but black water under your feet, and ask yourself, if something massive was staring up at you from the dark, would you even know until it moved? This is 13 Sea Creature Encounters. Story number 1 from user Swamp Signal, Main Lake Monster.
Okay, so this happened to my cousin's buddy up in Maine. They were out on one of those little islands, the kind with, like, one rickety cabin and a whole lot of trees. It was late fall. Everything was all gray and damp, and the lake was black as ink. They were doing some late-night fishing, trying to catch some of those big Maine trout. The only light was from their lanterns, casting these weird, wobbly shadows on the water. It was quiet. Too quiet, you know? Just the lapping of the water against the rocks and the occasional hoot of an owl. Then they heard it. A splash, but not like a fish jumping. This was big, like something heavy had fallen into the water. They shined their lanterns around, but saw nothing. Figured it was a log or something, but then it happened again, closer this time. And then they heard this sound, like a low growl, but underwater. It was vibrating through the boat, making their teeth rattle. They were freaked, obviously, but they're Maine guys, so they tried to play it cool. They kept fishing, but they were both on edge watching the water. Then, my cousin's buddy, he felt something tug on his line. He started reeling it in, thinking he had a monster trout, but it wasn't fighting like a fish. It was just heavy, dead weight. He got it close to the boat, and they both shined their lanterns down, and that's when they saw it. It wasn't a fish. It was this thing. This long, pale, slimy thing with these big black eyes. It was tangled in the line, and it was just staring up at him like it was alive, but not alive, you know? Like a puppet or something, and they both just froze, staring at this thing. Then, it opened its mouth, and this long, black tongue shot out like a snake, and it made this noise, this wet, gurgling hiss that still gives my cousin's buddy nightmares. They cut the line, obviously, and got the hell out of there. They didn't even go back to the cabin that night. They just slept in the truck with the doors locked. They never went back to that island, and every time they tell the story, they swear they can still hear that hiss. So yeah, Maine lakes, they're pretty, but they're also kinda wrong. Anyone else have any creepy lake stories? I need to know I'm not the only one who thinks there's stuff in the water that shouldn't be there.
Story number 2 from user Shack on the Bay. We caught something in our fishing net. It spoke.
This happened about a month ago, and I haven't been back to the docks since. I manage a small fishing operation on the coast of Maine. Me, my brother Kyle, and a guy named Pete who smells like seaweed and rum, even when he's sober. We've all seen weird stuff. You stay out on the Atlantic long enough, You'll see more fog than stars and hear voices you swear are just the wind. But this wasn't the wind. It was around 2 a.m. and we were pulling in one of our last nets for the night. It felt heavier than usual, a lot heavier. Pete joked that we caught a whale calf or maybe a dead mob boss. Kyle laughed. I didn't. As we got it over the side, something thudded against the hull. Not a fish, not a crate, something solid. When we finally hauled it in, there was a shape in the net. Humanoid, but wrong. Its skin was gray-blue, like rotted meat left too long in salt water. No eyes, just a smooth expanse where they should have been. Its mouth was a vertical slit that ran from chin to throat. And when it opened, God help me, it talked. Not with words at first, with voices. It mimicked Kyle's voice, then mine, then Pete's, perfectly. Like it was flipping through channels, trying to decide which one to wear. Kyle stumbled back and dropped his flashlight. The thing started writhing in the net, not thrashing, just twitching, like it was learning. Then it whispered, in a voice that sounded like all three of us at once, "Let me go, or I'll take your skin instead." We cut the net, didn't even hesitate. Thing slipped back into the water like it had never been there at all. No splash, no wake. Here's the kicker. When we got back to shore, Pete's reflection in the water didn't match him. It smiled when he didn't. And when he tried to step away, the reflection didn't follow. It just stayed there, grinning, until it sank below the surface. Pete quit the next day, moved inland, bought a trailer in the mountains. Kyle's been sleepwalking every night since, always down to the shore. I have to lock his door to keep him inside. And me? I started hearing my own voice outside my window, talking to someone, laughing. If you're out on the Atlantic and you pull something heavy in the net, cut the line. Whatever's in there isn't worth it. Not unless you want to meet the ocean's idea of a mirror.
Story number 3 from user Just Add Saltwater. Something in the lake was mimicking my voice.
I grew up near a lake in northern Minnesota, the kind that's glassy in the early morning and pitch black at night. Locals had stories, of course. Old Mira, they called it. The name came from some old Ojibwe legend, I think, but most people just blamed drowning accidents on the booze or bad weather. I never thought twice about the stories growing up, until last summer, and I just moved back home after college. One night I decided to take my old canoe out around midnight. Not smart, I know, but the moon was full, the water was still, and I needed the headspace. I paddled out a ways and just drifted, staring at the stars. That's when I heard it. It started soft, a voice, my voice. At first I thought it was just an echo. I hadn't said anything, but I figured maybe I mumbled or exhaled weird. But then I heard it again, louder this time. "Hello." I froze. I hadn't said a word, but it was definitely my voice. Same tone, same speech pattern, except it sounded wet. Gurgled, like it was being dragged out through waterlogged lungs. I spun the canoe around and scanned the surface, but there was nothing, just ripples. Then it started laughing, still in my voice, but wheezing, unnatural, like someone trying to remember how laughter worked. I started paddling like hell back toward shore, but the water beneath me started to swirl. The canoe rocked hard, I almost tipped. I saw something breach the surface, too fast to make out, but it was pale, long, and slick, like a giant eel, and with hands. When I finally got to shore, soaked and shaking, I swear I heard my voice again echoing softly across the lake. "Come back. I'm not done wearing you yet." I haven't been on the water since. Neither have the neighbors. Their dog went missing last week. They found its collar on the dock, wet and half chewed. People are saying the drought's causing fish to die off, that it's bringing old things up from the lake bed. But I don't think this thing ever left. I think it just got lonely, and now it wants to play dress up.
Story number 4 from user Creekbed Footsteps. Something eerie in Lake Erie.
This happened last summer up at Lake Erie, near Presque Isle. I know. Lake Erie isn't that deep, you're gonna say. But trust me, there's something wrong with that water. I was out on my little fishing boat, just me and the hum of the engine. It was getting late. The sun was starting to dip all orange and red, making the water look like blood. Beautiful, right? Wrong. It started getting too still, like the whole lake was holding its breath. Then I heard it. Not a splash, not a wave, but this sigh. A deep, wet sigh that seemed to come from right under the boat. It wasn't human. It was too low, too resonant, almost like the lake itself was exhaling. I cut the engine, heart hammering against my ribs. Silence for a few seconds, just the gentle rocking of the boat. Then another sigh, closer this time. I peered over the side, my flashlight beam cutting through the murky water. Nothing, just the usual green-brown murk, but I felt it. This presence, like something big was down there, watching me. Then I saw it, just a glimpse, a flash of something pale, almost luminous, moving beneath the surface. It wasn't a fish. It was too long, too wrong. It looked like a pale, elongated hand, but without fingers, just these smooth, unsettling curves. It vanished back into the depths before I could get a good look. I hauled anchor and got the hell out of there, engine roaring. I didn't look back. But the worst part, a few weeks later, I was talking to old man Hemlock down at the bait shop. He's lived by the lake his whole life. I hesitantly told him what I saw. He just nodded slowly, his eyes cloudy. The old ones, he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. They don't like the noise of the world. They sleep down deep. Sometimes they wake up. He told me stories, whispers of things seen in the fog, strange disturbances in the water when it was perfectly calm, fishing nets torn apart by something huge and unseen. He said they had pale skin and eyes that glowed in the dark. I haven't been back on the lake after sunset since. Every time I look at that dark water, I can't shake the feeling that something is down there, sighing in the silence, waiting for the world above to grow quiet again. Anyone else ever experience anything off on the Great Lakes, or any big lake, for that matter? I need to know I'm not crazy. Stay away from the deep water at night, folks. You never know what's listening.
Story number 5 from user Deep Sea. Dude, this makes the Mariana Trench look like a puddle.
So I work on one of those deep-sea research vessels, the kind that sends ROVs down to places where sunlight hasn't touched in millennia. We're usually looking at hydrothermal vents, weird tube worms, the usual deep-sea oddities. But about 6 months ago, we encountered something else. We were running a long transect at around 8,000 meters, further down than we usually go. The ROV was chugging along, its lights cutting through the perpetual black. Everything was normal for hours, the occasional bioluminescent flicker, some strange, slow-moving fish. Then, the sonar started acting haywire, just these massive, unidentifiable returns. Bigger than any whale, bigger than any submersible we had on record. The readings were so off the charts, the tech guys thought it was a malfunction. We kept going, trying to troubleshoot, and then the camera feed flickered. For maybe half a second, before cutting out completely, we saw it. It was just a glimpse, a fleeting shadow against the blackness, but it was enough to burn itself into my retinas. Imagine the largest mountain range you've ever seen, then imagine it moving, slowly, deliberately. This wasn't a creature with a defined shape like anything we know. It was just mass, an impossible amount of organic matter, eclipsing the ROV's lights entirely. The scale was incomprehensible. Our ROV is the size of a small truck. This thing made it look like a dust mote. Then the tether went slack, just snapped, like a thread. We lost the ROV, all its sensors, everything. The sonar went completely silent after that, like whatever it was had just absorbed all the sound. We spent the next few days in a state of terrified confusion. The scientists were whispering theories, rogue geological formations, sensor errors. But we all knew what we'd seen, or rather hadn't seen clearly enough. Something impossibly large, something that dwarfed our understanding of life on this planet, was down there. We never reported it properly. Who would believe us? Yeah, we saw a living continent in the deep sea. We'd be laughed out of the scientific community. So we kept it quiet, a shared nightmare among the crew. But sometimes, late at night, when the ship is silent and the ocean outside is an endless void, I think about what else is down there in the crushing darkness. What other unimaginable behemoths are lurking in the abyssal plains, their existence completely unknown to us surface dwellers. And the thought that chills me to the bone isn't just its size. It's the feeling that it was aware of us. That brief flicker on the camera felt like an eye-opening, a momentary glimpse into something ancient and utterly alien. We are not the masters of this planet, not even close. There are things in the deep that would make the Leviathan look like a guppy, and they are vast beyond our wildest imaginings. Sweet dreams, everyone. You're gonna need them.
Story number 6. From user 404 hallway found. Attacked by something.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone. I need to get this off my chest because I haven't slept properly in weeks. This happened last month at a lake upstate, one of those supposedly crystal clear mountain lakes that everyone raves about. I went for a solo swim early in the morning. The mist was still hanging low over the water, making everything look eerie but beautiful. The water was cold, that sharp, clean kind that wakes you right up. I was maybe 50 feet from the shore, just enjoying the silence and the feeling of the water around me. Then I felt it. It wasn't a tug or a bite. It was more like resistance, like swimming through something thicker than water, but it was localized, right around my legs. I stopped, treading water, and looked down. The visibility was surprisingly good, maybe 10 or 15 feet. At first, I thought it was just some weird weeds, but they weren't moving with the current. They were still, and they were pale, unnaturally pale, almost white against the dark bottom. Then one of them moved. Not with the water, but on its own. It writhed slightly, and I realized it wasn't a weed at all. It looked like a limb. A long, slender, pale limb. Thicker than my arm, with no discernible joints or features. Just smooth, unsettling flesh. Panic flared in my chest. I tried to kick away, but something else brushed against my other leg. This time, it felt textured, rough, almost like scales, but slick. I thrashed, trying to get back to shore, but it felt like I was swimming uphill. Something was holding me back, not with force, but with this heavy, clinging presence. I ducked my head under the water again, desperate to see what was below me. The mist on the surface made the light distorted, but I saw it then, just a fleeting glimpse. A massive, pale shape in the depths. It was too big to be a fish, too amorphous to be anything I could recognize. I saw a hint of a long, undulating body, and then those pale limbs extending towards me. And then an eye, just one, huge and black, staring directly up at me. It wasn't like a fish eye. It looked intelligent, coldly, anciently intelligent. I screamed, a strangled sound that barely broke the surface. I kicked and clawed, adrenaline flooding my system. Whatever was holding me seemed to loosen its grip, just for a second. I used that chance to haul myself forward, scrambling through the water like a terrified animal. I didn't stop until I was on the shore, collapsing onto the wet sand, gasping for air. I didn't look back at the lake. I just ran. I haven't been back since. Everyone says it was probably just weeds or maybe a big snapping turtle, but I know what I felt. I know what I saw. That pale limb, that massive shape, that single black eye. It's burned into my memory. There's something else in that lake. Something ancient and huge and wrong. And it touched me. Has anyone else ever experienced anything like this while swimming in a lake? Please tell me I'm not losing my mind.
Story number 7 from user Crankbait Creep. Something huge swam under my boat. It had eyes.
I fish for peace and quiet, mostly. I'm not one of those YouTube guys with GoPros strapped to every limb. Just a crusty tackle box, a 6-pack, and my old tin John boat I call Maggie. She leaks a little but floats like a dream. Last weekend, I went up to Lake Kewah in northern Wisconsin. Locals talk about old Puddleback like it's Bigfoot's swim coach, but I figured it was just beer stories. You know the type. I swear it was this big. Type of nonsense. I launched Maggie around 5 a.m. Fog was thick and sitting low on the water, the way it gets when the lake's dead still and the air's cold enough to bite. I trolled out about 100 yards from the eastern bank, set my rod, and just waited. That's when I noticed everything had gone. Quiet. Not peaceful quiet, wrong quiet. No birds, no bugs. Even the frogs shut up. Just the sound of my own breathing and the occasional clunk of the boat shifting. Then my depth finder blinked. Something massive was moving under the boat. Not a school. One thing. Maybe 20, 25 feet long. At first I thought it glitched out, but then Maggie tilted slightly. Just a subtle list to one side like something brushed the hull. I looked over the side. And there it was. An eye. The size of a dinner plate, pale and milky, staring straight up at me through the water. It didn't blink, didn't flinch, just watched. Then it rolled away and the boat bobbed from the wake. The water turned dark, like silt had been kicked up from the bottom. Something large and coiled passed beneath, slowly. No fins, no scales, just smooth, veiny skin, like a drowned elephant's trunk. I started the motor and booked it to shore. Damn near ran the boat up onto the grass. Here's where it gets worse. That night, I found muddy water pooled outside my cabin door. I thought it was runoff until I saw the prints. Long, slippery, like something dragged itself up from the lake, and in the middle of it, a single fish, not dead, still gasping. Its eyes, same as the one under the boat, too big, too human. I haven't slept since. If you're heading to Lake Kewah, bring a camera if you want, but maybe also bring a gun, or a priest, or both. Because I don't think old Puddleback is just a lake monster. I think it's watching, and I think it remembers me.
Story number 8 from user Debugging Reality. Blackwood Lake Encounter.
Okay, this is going to sound insane, and honestly, part of me still hopes it was just a really, really bad dream. But I need to put this somewhere. Maybe someone out there has seen something similar. My ex, Sarah, and I broke up about 6 months ago. It wasn't a clean break. Lots of yelling, accusations, the whole messy thing. Anyway, a few weeks ago she went missing. No note, no contact, just gone. The police are treating it as a missing person case, but honestly, they don't seem to have any leads. I haven't been handling it well, obviously. Guilt, regret, all that fun stuff. Last night, I couldn't sleep, so I drove out to our old spot by Blackwood Lake. It's this secluded little cove where we used to go stargazing. It's usually really peaceful. Last night, it wasn't. The air felt heavy, and the lake was eerily still, reflecting the moon like a black mirror. I sat on the shore for a while, just staring at the water, trying to clear my head. Then I heard it, a low guttural sound that seemed to come from the depths. It wasn't an animal I recognized. It was deeper, more resonant, almost reptilian. I got this overwhelming feeling of dread, like something ancient and powerful was lurking beneath the surface. The water started to ripple, not from wind, but from something moving under it, something big. Then I saw it. Just for a split second, in the moonlight, a long dark shape broke the surface maybe 50 feet out. It was serpentine, thick as a tree trunk, with what looked like ridges or spines along its back. It moved with this slow, deliberate power, and the water around it seemed to churn and darken. And then I saw something else, something pale and familiar, caught in what looked like the creature's jaws. It was only a glimpse, but I swear I saw a piece of clothing, a bright blue piece of fabric. Sarah had a blue hoodie she always wore. The creature submerged again, the ripples fading into the black water. The guttural sound echoed one more time before silence fell. I know how this sounds. A grieving ex seeing monsters in the lake. But the feeling I had, the sheer wrongness of that thing, the flash of blue, it felt real, horrifyingly real. I went to the police this morning, told them what I saw. They looked at me like I had 3 heads. They said the lake has some big catfish, maybe a snapping turtle. They politely suggested I get some rest, but I can't rest. I keep seeing that dark shape, that flash of blue. I can't shake the feeling that whatever is in that lake, it took her, it ate her. Has anyone ever seen anything like this in Blackwood Lake? Or any lake for that matter? Something huge, serpentine, something hungry. Please, tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me someone else has seen something. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should push the police, try to find proof, or just try to forget what I saw and live with this nightmare.
Story number 9 from user Hookline and Fear. I think something in the lake has been following me my whole life.
I don't post on here much, but I read a lot of the creepy stuff you all share. Makes me feel less crazy, or at least less alone. But I figured it was finally time I put this out there. Maybe someone's had something similar happen. There's a lake near the town I grew up in, Lake Gannett, Western Maryland. Not big, not deep, just one of those wooded, quiet places people forget about. But ever since I was a kid, something's been in there, and I think it knows me. First time, age 7, my dad took me fishing one foggy morning. I was dozing off in the boat when I felt it bump. Just a little, like something nudged the hull. Dad said it was a log, but I remember looking down and seeing bubbles rising in a perfect circle. Then something brushed my leg in the water. Felt like wet hair. That night, I had a nightmare. Something with long arms and no face was crawling out of the lake and tapping on the window. My dad said it was just stress from starting school. Except we were on summer break. Second time, age 13. Me and my friend Corey snuck out at night to fish off the dock. We were joking, throwing pebbles, acting like punks. Then we saw it. About 20 yards out, something surfaced. Humanoid, but not quite. Its limbs were too long. Its head was wrong, stretched, almost drooping, no eyes, just a slit where a mouth should be. It made this sound, a gurgling moan, like it was trying to mimic a scream underwater. Corey bolted. I didn't move, couldn't. I swear it smiled at me before sinking again. And when it went under, it didn't make a ripple. Corey never came back to the lake after that, refused to even drive past it. Third time, age 19. I was home from college, needed space, drove to the lake alone, sat on the dock with a beer. I hadn't been there in years. Around midnight, I saw it again. Just barely. A shape standing at the edge of the water across the lake. It didn't move, didn't shift, just watched. When I looked down at my phone and looked back up, it was gone. But the wet footprints leading up behind me, yeah, still there. I left the beer and ran. Last time, age 32, last weekend, I took my son to Lake Gannett. Dumb, I know. Thought maybe time had smoothed things out. Told myself I made it all up. He was skipping rocks. I was distracted. Then I heard him say, "Daddy, who's that lady in the lake?" I looked up. He was pointing out at the water. Nothing there, not at first. Then I saw her, closer than she'd ever been. Hair like riverweed, skin like drowned bark, arms too long, and she was waving. My son waved back. We left everything and ran. I haven't slept, neither has he. He says she talks to him now, says she knows his name, says she's waiting. I think I made a mistake going back. I think it didn't forget me. And I think now, it wants him instead.
Story number 10 from user Nocturnal Reel Keeper. I work night security at SeaWorld. One of the tanks isn't on the map.
This is going to sound like I'm fishing for karma, but I honestly don't care if anyone believes me. I just need this out there. I've worked night security at SeaWorld Orlando for the past 8 years. It's mostly quiet. You get used to the sounds, the distant splash of dolphins, the eerie whale calls echoing through concrete, the hum of filtration systems that never stop. Last month, we got a notice about a temporary research installation near the older, unused part of the aquarium complex. Nobody told us what it was for, just to avoid Tank 49B and keep the doors locked. Thing is, there is no 49B on the official schematics. It skips from 48 straight to 50. I checked twice. First night I saw something weird. I was doing rounds and passed by that hallway. There was water on the floor, not a leak. A trail, like something wet had been dragged across the tiles, leading away from the tank door. I checked the security feed. That corridor's camera. Static. Next night I brought a portable camera of my own and slipped it through the crack in the maintenance door. Just wanted to see what was inside. What I saw on the screen made my blood turn to slush. The tank wasn't like the others. No signage, no theme. Just black water with green emergency lights overhead, like the kind you'd see in a submarine horror movie. And floating just beneath the surface was something. Long, pale, ridged with deep gill slits and too many joints. It was just hovering like it didn't need to swim. When I zoomed in, I saw that its face, or what I think was its face, had no eyes, just thin moving slits that pulsed like they were listening. And then it turned directly toward the camera. It smiled. It had teeth. Way too many teeth for something supposedly behind bulletproof glass. I yanked the camera out and noped the hell out of there. Told my supervisor the door wasn't locking properly. He just said, "No, they'll handle it. You don't need to go near 49B again." Them. Not maintenance, not research staff, just they. Last night I heard a splash near the dolphin pool. When I got there, everything was fine. But all the dolphins were huddled in the corner, silent, no chirping, no movement. And near the drain was a trail of black algae I've never seen before. It was slimy, and it smelled like brine and blood. This morning, I found out the SeaWorld vet tech who oversees the quarantine tanks didn't show up to work. Her car's still in the lot. They're saying she quit, but her security badge pinged last night. Inside 49B. If you're planning a trip, maybe skip the behind-the-scenes tours. And if someone tells you the sea holds mysteries we haven't discovered yet, that's a lie. We've discovered them. We just don't know how to put them back.
Story number 11 from user Cornfield Silhouette. Terrifying fishing tale.
This happened to my uncle, a seasoned lobsterman up in Maine. He's seen some weird stuff out on the water, but this rattled him. He was pulling traps about a mile offshore, just as the sun was starting to bleed orange into the fog. The water was unusually calm, almost oily. Then his sonar started going nuts. Not just fish echoes, but something huge. Like a submerged boulder the size of a small car, moving slowly beneath his boat. He cut the engine, a bad feeling creeping up his spine. The fog was thick, muffling all sound except the gentle lapping of the water against his hull. Then he heard it, a low, mournful moan that seemed to rise from the depths. It wasn't a whale song. It was sadder, more human-like, but undeniably not human. He leaned over the side, peering into the murky water. That's when he saw it, just a glimpse through a break in the fog. Something pale and elongated moving just below the surface. It was too long to be any fish he knew, and it had this almost delicate, flowing quality to its movement. Then it surfaced a little more. He saw a head, not like a seal or a dolphin. It was more angular, with these large dark eyes that seemed to reflect no light. And its mouth, it wasn't a snout or a beak. It was a straight, lipless gash that looked like it was sewn shut. The moaning sound came again, closer this time. It sent shivers down his spine. He said it sounded like something in immense pain, or maybe immense loneliness. Then the creature did something that made his blood run cold. It raised a long, slender hand, or what looked like a hand, with webbed fingers that were disturbingly human-like, and pressed it against the side of his boat, just inches from where he was leaning. The touch was gentle, almost hesitant, but the sight of that pale, alien hand against his weathered hull sent him scrambling back. He didn't even think. He just yanked the starter cord and gunned the engine, leaving his traps bobbing in the fog. He didn't look back. He said he could still hear that mournful moan fading behind him as he sped toward shore. He hasn't been the same since. He still goes out, it's his livelihood, but he avoids that area. He says the water there feels different now, heavier, like something is always watching from below. He described the creature as something ancient, something that shouldn't be. He said it looked like a lost soul, trapped in the deep. Anyone else ever encounter anything like that out on the water? Something that just felt wrong? Something that made your gut clench with primal fear? I'm starting to think the old fishermen's tales aren't just stories after all.
Story number 12, from user redacted briefing. Think twice about your next lakeside picnic.
This happened to a buddy of mine, Liam, last summer up at Lake Serenity. Ironic name, right? Liam's a keen kayaker, loves getting out on the water at dawn when it's all misty and still. One morning, he was paddling along the western shore near this old, half-submerged log jam that everyone avoids because the currents get weird there. He heard this strange splashing sound, not like a fish jumping, more rhythmic and heavy. He paddled closer, thinking maybe it was a beaver or something. The mist was thick, but he could make out a disturbance in the water near the logs. Then he saw it. A dark, slick shape broke the surface briefly. It was long, maybe 15 feet, with a thick, muscular body. Its head was mostly submerged, but he saw a glimpse of something angular and dark. He initially thought it was a giant sturgeon, but the way it moved, it was too fluid, too deliberate. Then a smaller shape surfaced next to it, much smaller, maybe 3 or 4 feet long, and it looked similar but less defined, almost like a darker shadow in the water. The larger creature nudged it gently with its head, and a low, guttural crooning sound echoed across the water. Liam said it wasn't aggressive, but it was undeniably a warning. Stay away. Liam, being the curious and maybe slightly foolish type, paddled a little closer, trying to get a better look. That's when the larger creature reacted. It didn't charge, it didn't roar, it just shifted. Its body tensed and a series of dark bony ridges or plates along its back became more pronounced. Its head rose slightly and Liam saw its eyes for the first time. They were large, black, and utterly devoid of emotion. Just a cold, primal protectiveness. And then it slammed its tail against the water. The force of it sent a wave rocking Liam's kayak violently. He nearly capsized. The smaller creature disappeared beneath the surface, and the larger one fixed its gaze on Liam. A silent threat that was more terrifying than any roar. Liam, realizing he'd overstepped some unseen boundary, backed away slowly. The creature watched him until he was a good distance away, then it submerged. The only trace of it a few lingering ripples. The smaller one didn't reappear. He said the feeling he had wasn't fear for his own safety. Not entirely. It was the raw, overwhelming sense of a parent protecting its young. He felt like he'd intruded on something ancient and fiercely private. He hasn't gone back to that part of the lake since. He always wonders what those creatures were, and if the little one is still out there, being guarded by its silent, watchful parent. So yeah, Lake Serenity might look peaceful, but there's something down there with a family to protect. And trust me, you don't want to mess with a lake monster parent. Anyone else ever witnessed something like that? That protective instinct in something monstrous? It's a whole different level of creepy.
Story number 13 from user below. Crush depth. Our submarine went too deep. Something down there. Knocked back.
This happened 3 months ago, but I'm still not right. My hair's falling out. My sleep feels like drowning. And I swear I still hear the creaking pressure of the hull when things get too quiet. I was a sonar tech aboard the Leviathan's Grasp, a deep-sea research sub jointly operated by the U.S. Navy and some civilian scientists. Our job, map unexplored trenches in the Pacific, run pressure tests, catalog anything weird. We were almost 19,000 feet down, below the midnight zone, where sunlight is just a rumor, and even the fish have the decency to glow like ghosts. The mission was routine, until it wasn't. Around day 5, the sub started picking up odd interference. Not mechanical, organic, something moving down there with us, massive. We thought maybe a pod of giant squid, nothing we hadn't dealt with before. Then it started mimicking our sonar pings. Exactly. Not delayed. Not distorted. Perfect. Like it was answering. Then the lights flickered. Pressure alarms tripped, then reset. No explanation. But the hull, it started flexing, like something was touching it, feeling it. Dr. Hamada, our lead biologist, looked pale. She kept whispering something about Architeuthis paradox, some undocumented cousin of the giant squid, she theorized. Joked that we'd finally found her kraken. Then the power cut. Total darkness. We switched to backup. Only emergency lights lit the interior in red. That's when it hit us. Not like a collision, more like a squeeze, like a python testing a mouse. The sub groaned and metal screamed as something wrapped around it. Thick, rope-like arms pressed against the viewports. One of them had a sucker the size of a manhole cover, and it blinked. I shit you not, it had an eye. And it was watching us like we were the ones in the tank. We tried to ascend, but the controls jammed. The ballast system didn't respond. Something had latched onto us and wasn't letting go. The lights outside flashed, our exterior floodlights flickering on and off. In the strobe, we saw it in pieces, a mass of coiling tentacles. A gaping mouth with rings of teeth inside rings of more teeth. And something worse, a torso. Almost humanoid, slick and glistening, like evolution had made a hard left turn halfway through. Then it let go. Just released us, like it lost interest. We surfaced in silence. 3 crew members were catatonic. Dr. Hamada won't speak. One guy, the engineer, started babbling in a language none of us recognized and scratched spirals into the steel walls with his fingernails until they bled. When we got back, we were debriefed separately. They told us it was a mass pressure hallucination. They said we'd experienced collective narcosis. Right. Then they sealed the logs, scrubbed the data, grounded the Leviathan's grasp permanently. I wasn't supposed to post this. I signed things, swore oaths, but I don't care anymore. Because last night, my apartment building shook. I live 1,000 miles from the ocean, and my shower drain coughed up a piece of sucker flesh the size of a coin. The Kraken is real, and I don't think it stayed down there.
Let me tell you a story.
And that was 13 sea creature encounters from Reddit. Maybe some of these were whales, sharks, oarfish, squid, strange waves, or brains running on no sleep and too much ocean. But a few of them, the ones where the scale doesn't add up, the movement is wrong, and the water goes quiet all at once, are harder to file under just marine life. The truth is simple and not very comforting. We have not mapped most of the ocean. We don't know everything that lives in it. If you've ever seen something in the water you couldn't explain, drop it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who says there's nothing down there, but still gets uneasy on deep water. Thanks for watching. And the next time you're on a boat and something huge brushes the hull, don't lean over the edge to check. Whatever's down there already knows you're there.